one, guys. I'm on time. It's not Trini time today. Got my buddy John Morgan in the background, and we're just gonna discuss really quickly and shortly our thoughts on the season. It's still going on. It's not over yet. We still got the FA Cup, and there's still a shout, for fifth place or even top four. It might be possible. You never know what could happen. There's a run of games over the next five. There's going to be a definite change to the landscape of the top five teams. We're here to see what it will be. Guys, get in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. How do you feel? Do you think Manchester United is going to probably clinch a top four place, or are they just going to get fifth? What are your thoughts? Get in the comments. Let us know how you feel and what you are thinking. Smash those likes and subscribe. Let's get the show on the road, guys. Big up to everybody. I got my buddy John Morgan. He's here early. What's good, my bro? How are you doing today?
Good man, I'm good. I'm good. I can't complain. Um, so Chelsea won, surprisingly. So, yeah, interesting league that we have going on. But I'm good. Preferably, I'm good.
Yeah, big up. And it's weird, I didn't even watch the game. I was gonna do a hate along with Poppy, and I didn't watch the game. Excuse me. And it was
Bless
crazy.
you.
Like I thought, maybe Newcastle might have clinched the 3-2 game, winner on like the 75th minute. I just saw a clip and I was like, yo, Newcastle might just claim it. I'm gonna get 3 points in the prediction. But you know what? Chelsea came back, and they're now what, 8 points behind Manchester United. It's good for the league. You know what I mean? It spreads the wealth around. It keeps it exciting because between
Yeah.
seventh and 10th, it's only separation of like what, 3 or 4 points between themselves. So it's one of those things. I'm not
Mm.
I'm not huge on the comparisons because at the end of the day, I believe that Chelsea maybe next season might be a much better team. They bought a lot of youth talent. It was never gonna work this season. It was never gonna be somewhere that they got. They was never gonna get top four or anything like that. I think
Mm.
it was always going to be a case where they're going to be fighting for seventh, eighth, ninth, or 10th or something because they're talented youngsters. They have a decent coach, and
Yeah.
they just was lacking the experience. That the know-how or how to manage games, and it was
Yeah.
never really going to happen. But it's still a different way. At the same time, people might compare that rebuild to United and say, that one might be better in a way that they changed over the entire squad and changed everything, which
Mm.
in some instances might not be the positive. I think United rebuild might be the better one for me. The only
Mm.
difference is that I don't think everyone has the patience to see it through in the same way that other clubs have seen through their rebuilds, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's hurt to see a team lose. And if you notice how the fan base reacting to some losses and some bad performances, it's expected when a team for the last decade was playing counter-attacking football, and
Mm.
they want to change to pressing, expansive, attacking football,
Mm.
and it's never going to be easy. You know what I mean? And sure, we could look at another manager at a club with less pressure and less media attention and say, well, he's getting the job done. But at the same time, this is Manchester United. Without us, they don't sell news.
Yeah.
And the manager,
Of
no
course.
matter if he winning or he losing, he's the focus of every single, media outlet. And when you look at the different factors coming in to what's going on with that, Pochettino has had a worse season. You know what I mean? Eddie Howe has had a worse season. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And these guys, they don't even mention them. Graham Potter failed horribly at Chelsea, yet still he's being linked with the Manchester United job. It's like, hmm,
And that's the killer because for me, like, um, a lot of people look at the project of our project and they kind of have so much bias, so much. to say so much opinion because it's maybe not going the way that we expected it and wanted it to go. I mean, I watched a clip now the other day of a couple people predicting the top four, and everybody had United in the top four, whether it was third, whether it was fourth. Some people had it second, and the reality is that last season was a very good season for us, and that kind of created an expectation for us to now perform. And now that is not happening. All of a sudden, everybody's washed and everybody's bad. And I look at last night and I see the amount of injuries Newcastle have, the type of team. I saw someone said, yeah, GB said both teams look disinterested. I don't necessarily think it's disinterested. I just think that the quality between that you saw on Sunday with Liverpool and City compared to the quality we saw last night is a very very big gap. And I think that's the concern, and both teams don't want to lose. So yeah, for me, I don't know if I can say Chelsea's dribble is a bit better, as well, because if I look at United's team, we still have the horrible players, but we're still doing way better than them. And I think they bought badly. They bought very bad. So yeah, I just think that it's a weird season though. It's a very weird
It's
season.
very weird. It's one of the closest seasons in a long time, to be fair, as well. You know, a lot of people predicting the top four. And, you know, at the beginning of the season, you know, we were talking, a lot of people was talking Man City going to run away with it. You know, Liverpool probably go and get it. Arsenal might win. You know, a lot of people, you know, I heard talk about Spurs and Chelsea being in top four, Man United as best as sixth. You know what I mean? For me, when I look at the season and I look at the expectations of the fan base, I'm like, this is every second season. Nothing changes. You know what I mean? It's one of those things
Mm,
for me. I'm one of the people where I was like, okay, we wanted this manager, you know, he
yeah.
came. We saw before he came there was at least 8 players or 9 players that we know that was playing in and amongst the starting 11 and, you know, coming off the bench that we needed to get rid of.
Mm,
And I always said to myself, you know, before this manager, anything happened to this manager, those players had to be out of here.
yeah.
You know, and I feel like the media suddenly trying to challenge Manchester United fans in terms of their football knowledge. I don't, and I'm not trying to criticize the fans. I'm trying to criticize the media in the sense that the media trying to put it to fans that he's not a good coach when all statistics prove he's the best coach since Fergie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All statistics. And, you know, maybe the style of play might not be as defined as people might want. You know, maybe
Mm,
the team might not be performing as consistently as we want. But when you look at the real poor performers in that squad, it's the same guys was doing that nonsense 3 seasons ago, 4 seasons ago, 5 seasons ago. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And you know what? I had enough, bro. I had enough. You know, I feel like we could sit here and argue football and beautiful game and, you know, at least let me
Mm,
see good football. Bro, I
mm,
don't want to see good football if it's not bringing any victories, bro. You understand?
exactly.
The most boring thing for me to do is watch a team play real good football, but they can't score a goal, bro. And then they lose. You know what I mean? And that was for me watching Liverpool under Klopp in his first 2 seasons because
Mm,
they finished eighth and then they finished eighth. And it's like, oh,
mm,
he's amazing. This looks so great. It's doing nothing for you, bro. You're winning nothing. But some people will say that is more progress or that's more important than, you know, finishing fifth
yeah.
by getting results in some moments. You know, the weirdest bit for me is that we have a team filled with some players who probably are more suited for counter-attacking football. And we want the manager to change his style to suit these counter-attacking players because you know what? You know, they are being highlighted too much. You know, the system is not suited to the way they play. And it's funny because, in my opinion, they're supposed to change the way they play to suit our system. I mean, at the end of the day, the club have a system and a style of play. It was established since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was here. They wanted to play expansive attacking football in all these last 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
And Oli couldn't do that. So this is why they went to get a coach who could do it. So now the next step is to get players in the profile who could play in the side because we
Yeah.
weren't shopping for those profile players before. So I just look at it from this perspective that, rather than set the system and make the setup suit these players that we have, let these players find a way to perform in that system, how the system is. Because you know what? It's not going to benefit us going forward to continue changing systems to suit these players. That is not
Can I
progression.
can I just address something quickly? Because I think this is narrative, and I know you wanted to speak about the rest of the season, but I just want to. This is narrative that a great manager takes whatever there is and he makes them good players, right? But
Hmm.
that's not true because if you look at Fergie sold Veron, Fergie sold Beckham, Fergie sold a multitude of players that they were good, they were not good, but they didn't fit, and he sold them. You look at a manager like Pep. Pep came in and he said, Joe Hart, thank you, but no thank you. Pep changed the whole team. He bought Fabian Delph didn't work. He bought Danilo didn't work. He bought all these different players that he bought him and it didn't work and he sold them again. And by that logic, if you're saying great managers make players great, why didn't Pep stick with Danilo, stick with Fabian Delph, stick with all these different Claudio Bravo, stick with all these players that he brought in and make them great? My thing is, we look at Ten Hag with a different measuring stick and with a different standard than we give every other manager that's in the league, right? If we look at last season we had the year game was improved, but it couldn't be improved to the point where he became a ball playing goalkeeper, right? If you look at the other players like Fred is not this type of player. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, not this kind of player. You don't want a player like that. It doesn't fit the profile. And I agree with you, Mark, when you say that it's time for us to bring in players that will fit his profile. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to go anywhere if we're going to continue to say great managers make the players great. Because then the players not then you're gonna stay in this bubble of player FC. You're gonna stay in this bubble of Rashford over a new player. You're gonna stay in this bubble of continuing to play the likes of Maguire, Lindelof, Luke Shaw, uh, Rashford, Martial, all of these players that we grown to like. We're gonna continue to play them because they must be made great. I think personally, if it doesn't fit the profile, he needs to go. So now we need to look at players that's going to fit the profile. The same way Pep brought in players and let players go. They said, I'm sorry, this player he's not good enough. Sell him again. Even though I brought him in, sell him again. It's fine. Bring in a different one. Until he got Cancelo, until he got Gundogan, until he got Erling Haaland. Okay, but Erling Haaland was a Aguero replacement. But sell Leroy Sane. It's fine. We're gonna get Maris. You know what I'm trying to say? He sold, he chopped and changed so many times until he got to a point where he could win the treble. He didn't win the Champions League until last season, and it took literally 8 years to get to that point. And here we're sitting after 2 seasons saying sack the manager, sack the manager. A manager must come in and make these players great. Come on, guys, man, we're not being real right now.
100%. Manu Tata always criticizing and saying this is what great managers are there for, but he can't name one great manager that has done that. Even Pep Guardiola has never done what he's saying there. You know what I mean? Pep Guardiola, look at this comment, right? Klopp's kids. Klopp's kids took 7 to 9 years to learn that system to play the way they play in that cup final, bro. I don't know why people
Facts.
hyping it like that, bro. Like, it's like, what else do you expect them to do? They were going to the academy. Klopp was coaching the academy, right? Klopp had the academy set up to play the same way that Liverpool first team is playing. These players have been growing in the academy since they were 12, right? By the time he reached 20 years old, 19 years old, that's 7 to 8 years playing one way.
One way.
Do you not expect to be able to fill into the situation because you've been experienced knowing what to do? You never play in the Premier League, but you've been playing
Mm.
in the lower leagues right below. all the time the same way. And Pep has never done that. Pep has never in the last 5 seasons. You know how many youngsters Pep has debuted at Manchester City?
Only Foden, right?
Not just Foden. If you calculate all the players like Palmer and all these guys who have
Oh
gotten
yeah, that's
minutes,
true.
it was about 7 or 8, you know,
Yo.
in total, and that's like 5 seasons, bro.
Uh,
Guess what? Eric Ten Hag in this one season has already given debuts to 7 players. And 4 of those players receive constant game time and consistent game time in
mm,
the team. So I just want to know, when you want to make these standards, you have to understand what standard you're arguing about. And at
yeah.
the same time, I might be defending Eric Ten Hag, but at the same time, I doing it from a perspective of our team, our club needs to go forward based on football. You see the social media rant and rave nonsense that people want to be carrying on with, like my club or whatnot. It's cool if it's your club and it's good. Everyone should have the opinions and have their views and say what they have to say about the club. But at the end of the day, the club needs to perform. And this is not a popularity contest. This is a football competition. This is where the best win. And we should always want to win first. You know what I mean? The goal is to
Mm,
win, right? And at some point, you have to know that you have to start from somewhere. You can't start today and win tomorrow. Sometimes you have to start and build up. It might have a situation that might be an exception to the rule, but it does not make the rule. You know what I mean? Like some people
yeah.
talk about Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham's Hotspurs, but there's only 6 players at Tottenham Hotspurs that have not been at the club for more than 2 seasons. And those are the 6 players that Postecoglou brought in this season.
Yeah.
So if you want to understand why there's so much chemistry at Tottenham, it's because those players have been playing together for the last 3 seasons, the majority of them, right? If you count the starting 11, right, there are 9 players, there are 8 players in the starting 11 who have been at the club for more than one season. The
Mm,
only other players who in that starting 11 who has been at the club for less is Vicario and Van der Ven. Udoji was always in the academy. Was bought by the club in 2022.
mm,
He just didn't get a debut under Conte. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I mean, James Madison is a third one. They bought James Madison this season, but other than that, all the players have been there. And it's funny because everyone complains and everyone says this and says that, but having that longevity of training together for 2 or more seasons gives you that notability where you
Mm,
know what this player is going to do. You know he's going to make this run. You know he's going to stop there. You know what I mean? I must give credit to Anjman Lutata. I'm not saying, I never said he's not a good coach. I'm just explaining to you that when you have players in a system who suit a system, far less to suit the system, they also know each other well. It's going to be very easy for them to function. When we look at our games, our team has a system and tactics. When the tactics working, the team plays well. When it looks like some players are being too lazy to run or to do the basic, our team looks poorly. So
mm,
then, therefore, that's not a managerial issue. People have to remember some of the players have game time, match minutes in their contracts, right?
yeah.
Especially the big name players. So it's one of those things where we have to be a little bit fair to not only the coach, but we have to be fair to ourselves, right? Because at the end of the day, we are only a lot of people mental health seem to be affected by the football team at this moment, and
Mm,
in a certain way, for me, like we need to protect that. And I wouldn't naturally say that it will affect my mental health because at the end of the day, it's football and I could win,
mm,
lose, or draw. Of course, you would want to win most games and do the best that you can. But at the
yeah.
same time, winning is not a given. You know what I mean? Even cities
Mm,
have bad games. Even Real Madrid is lose sometimes. You know what I mean? Look, PSG never win a UEFA title. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to think about the context of things. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's how to have faith and believe in your team. Win, lose, or draw. Now it's not always down to rocket science and the hipster technicalities and some people have these statements where the manager set the team up and he set them up to fail. At the end of the day, if these players don't be human beings and adapt think, and change according to what's going on the field, what's the purpose of them being in the squad?
Exactly, and like if you look at so let's take Ange into consideration, right? We can't ignore the new manager pounds a manager has, right? When they come into a team, they say how we're going to play. All of a sudden, the team kind of adopts the idea until people stop believing. Now it's difficult for a manager. It's easy for a manager to implement his style when the players believe in him, and the players are forced to believe in him because it's a new manager. That's why you get the new manager bounce effect, because everybody's on board because it's a new guy, new style. Everybody wants the new car smell. You know what I mean? Everybody wants
Hmm.
this new shiny toy, and the new shiny toy is here. So we're going to believe in this new shiny toy. The problem comes in when the players start to see the issues with the system, with the style, with um with the manager. Maybe the manager doesn't play him enough. Maybe the training is too hard. Maybe um they had a fallout or whatever. Then all of a sudden you get these issues, and now all of a sudden the football don't look as fluid because you have players that don't really believe in the system. And I think with regards to Tottenham, the new manager has now come in and implemented a style, and the way Ange talks is very, very convincing in the way he speaks. So I can see the reason why he's doing well is because the players have bought in to what he wants to do, right? Bringing that to United, right? Do I think Ange is a better manager than Ten Hag? Absolutely not, because if you look at what um, Ten Hag had to deal with in his first and second season at United. The amount of scandals, the amount of injuries, the amount of players that don't want to play for him, the amount of fallouts that he had, the amount of constant media pressure, fan pressure, constant stuff that's not going his way. You're going to have a season like we're having. And as in the title you said, business end of the season, and 100% is the business end of the season, because we can win a trophy and we get into the top four. If we win a trophy and into the top four, then everybody that said Ten Hag out, all the media have all have egg on their faces, because now all of a sudden you have a manager that's winning trophies that you want out. How does that make sense? Make that make sense. You know what I mean? So that's just my issue at the moment with making the comparisons and doing the parallels. If you're gonna do the parallels, then take everything into consideration. Look at the full picture. Don't just look at the half of the picture and say this is this is why I think this. Where at the end of the day, if you look at the full picture, you look at everything the guy had to deal with. Now all of a sudden you can actually make a conclusive. You can actually come to a conclusion that, look, Erik Ten Hag has made mistakes, but I can see why he's done it, and I can see what he's trying to do. We have Cornetto who's come through from the academy. We have Kobe that's come through from the academy. We have Licha Martinez, who is a fantastic centre back. We have Onana, who's proving the doubters wrong. We have Rasmus Højlund that is spotted. That's actually great. Then on the flip side of that, we have Anthony that's sitting on the bench, even though he spent 80 million for him, and even though he was with him at Ajax, he's sitting on the bench and he can't get into the team because he's not doing good enough. And this is the type of manager that we want. We want a manager that, even though he's my player that I brought in, if he's not good enough, he's not going to play. Where I sometimes
100%.
I think, if we buy if we get a different manager, will this manager be able to have the balls to say, you're not playing, you're not good enough. I understand you, I had you with me, but you're not playing. Because the new manager is gonna come in and want his own players. And if his own players don't perform, what then?
That's the weird thing, you know. I mean, players supposed to perform. You expect them to perform, but sometimes they don't. Football is a funny thing, you know. I mean, like some players might move into a new situation and find it hard to adapt, and it might affect the way they play in games. It might, it's happened before, not just at Manchester United. If you look at Jack Grealish at Man City hadn't played a game for over 9 months in his first season after being bought for £105 million. No one talks about this. His
Yeah.
best season was last season for 3 months after Christmas. January, February, March was his game time because he didn't
Mm.
really have much game time during the season before. He was having a bad performance, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny when guys make these, you know, these systematic reviews and they say, well, look, this player this and this player that, and look at Man City, because I mean, when it happens at City, I mean, of course, it's not happening in the same amount or total of players having bad games. But when it happens at City, no one criticizes Pep. No one blames Pep. Everyone says, you know, he's the player, and he has to
Mm.
learn the Pep style, and then they give
Yeah.
him time. I mean, Jack Grealish doesn't have 10 more GA than Anthony. You know what I mean? If you look at his performance over the 2 or 3 seasons he had Man City, he have what, 20 or 23 GA in total or something like that. You know
I
what I
think it's
mean?
less.
It's kind of, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to dismiss Jack Grealish, but I'm just saying that he's not being criticized as a flop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
And
but it's not though. So for me, if I look at I like that point that you made with regards to Jack Grealish. But if you look at City this season, they signed a range of players, a whole bunch of players. They signed Vardiol, they signed what's it the guy from Wolves in
um
the midfield,
Mateus
um
Nunes.
Mateus Nunes. They signed Kovacic. They signed Doku. They signed all these players, and the only player that gets into the team is Doku, because Jack Grealish is injured or Jack Grealish is not playing well enough. So all of a sudden you have a City team that bought players they're not playing the new signings because they're not up to standard, they're not up to scratch. And at the end of the day, you need to allow the manager to make these decisions. Because what we want is we want the manager to come in and play good football immediately. How can you play good football immediately when you go to City across the road, where they playing the best brand of football, and they brought in players, but the players can't get in? They have Vardiol. Vardiol was fantastic last season and the season before. If he can't come into the team and adapt, and he sits on the bench, how do you expect a manager to come in and implement a style of play, implement everything that you want him to implement in a space of 2 years, or not even 2 years, 18 months? And then on top of it, you have injuries, you have scandals, you have issues, you have fallouts, you have all of these 110 things that comes with being a Man United manager. It is a pylon for me. It's crazy. So for me, Mark, like getting onto what you spoke about, like with the you say there's 11 games left, right?
Mm-hmm. 10 actually.
10 games left. That's 30 points. I was looking at this yesterday. So we are 8 points behind fourth. All right. 5 points behind fifth, with the game with Tottenham having a game in hand, but that game in hand is against Chelsea. So that game in hand is tough. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We have 30 points to play for. Out of that 30 points, I think Tottenham dropped 12 points. Tottenham dropped 12 points. Villa dropped 12 points. Right? Out of that, out of the 30 points that we have, I think we only drop 6 points. Right? So now we're sitting with a dilemma. We we are 8 points off the top four, but if we can win one of those games, for example, at City and it's Liverpool and Arsenal that I'm looking that we can potentially drop points in. If we can maybe get a win in one of those games, and we only drop 3 points out of the 30, we make the top four easily. We
Easily.
make the top four easily.
Yeah, and John, like it's something that I've been looking at. Like the next 2 games, hopefully we win the next 2 games. That's just my hope, right?
Mm.
Because we need to be, within the 6 points behind Tottenham, the 9 points behind Villa. Well, it's 8 points, but I'll just say it like 9 points. But we need to be within the shout, and that month of April, no one paying attention to it, but it's critical, not just for Villa, not just for Arsenal, not just for Tottenham, but also for City and Liverpool. Those 5 teams will be facing each other in the next month in back to back to back to back game weeks, right? Could you imagine Tottenham losing the first 2 games in that game week? You know, that could really set them up to lose all 4 games. That's
Yeah.
12 points drop. Now, if United picks up all 12 points in that situation, bro, we are 6 points behind Tottenham. That means we go 6 points ahead of Tottenham. We are 8 points behind Aston Villa. What
Mm.
if they drop 6 points and we pick up 12 points? We go 4 points ahead of them. And it's just so weird because, I'm not saying that United is in that kind of form right now that, definitely going to do that. But we in with a shout. And if it's one thing that no matter if it was Alex Ferguson or not, you can't do is conk Man United out in the business end of the season. Because in the last 10 games, we usually tend to win at least 7 of the last 10 games. It's just part of our history, our culture, what we do as the club. I see KennyFANtv coming in. I just wanted to comment on some of these questions coming in. And GB mentioning John Stones. John Stones missed a whole season when he went there the first time as well. It's one of those things when I found that Jack Grealish was a good player, but I think 100 million was highway robbery, bro. I just being
Yeah,
honest.
that's true.
We could say that Jack Grealish win the treble, but at the same time, we could say that you know John O'Shea was on the bench when we win the treble. What difference does it make? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, Sachev was good, my bro.
What's
Let's
good,
just
man?
get your opinion, because you know what, bro? Today you're gonna close the show because John and I have been talking for the entire stream, and I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
I'm not saying that we are talked out, but at the same time, it would be good to hear your opinion because everybody knows how
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
feel.
Yeah, sure, sure. I would like to first of all reply back to Man Lutara's comment, right? So for me, yeah, I fairly rate Ange in terms of how he has been at the Australian um, national football team, the way how the way how he really carried himself, you know. He does have a good charisma, but see, the thing is that like he is in this club where he has like less pressure from the fan base, less pressure from the media, and literally and like he's already got the players that he literally wanted, and he has like enough players to really implement his style of play, whereas we just really we just don't have like enough players. Like we have to also um we gotta also look into the bench as well. Like I've thought about this for weeks, and I mean, like it's just a lot of youngsters. So how is Ten Hag really gonna trust on some youngsters to really to really play their games where the Premier League games really matter the most. But I would love to have some youngsters have their game time, but it's too really uncertain to speak about it.
So,
And
sorry, Sashu, what youngsters are you talking about?
I was just talking about the youngsters that can be also given a game time, but
Do you have
at
anyone
this
specific?
sorry.
Anybody specific?
Um, I would like to say Amar Diallo, but for me, he doesn't really have the physicality in my real honest opinion. But like I would love to, but like right now at this is the business end of the season, so I don't think Ten Hag really trust any youngsters at the moment. So
Mm.
I would love to have some youngsters, but like maybe in the preseason or something like that, you know.
Yeah, like I hear that point on youngsters, and I agree with you. I would really like Tenag to give opportunities to players. Like for me personally, I don't know why we didn't go into the academy for a left back. It's kind of frustrating and a bit worrying that the academy couldn't produce a left back when had no left backs. When we needed
Yeah,
one at the crucial time. But I also think that Lindelof Ten Hag trusts. because he's a senior player and he can do a job for him. But what we've noticed, or personally what I've noticed with regards to Ten Hag, is when it comes to young players, he doesn't give young players opportunity because they're young. He gives them opportunity because they deserve it. You see, and I think that's the sole reason why Amad Diallo finds himself on the bench. Why Omari isn't starting before him. Because yes, the physicality is an issue, but I think it's more of a effort in training. I think it's more of a attitude in training.
skill set.
I think
He may have, like, I think Eric Ten Hag may have seen something from Omari Fosun that he may not have seen from Amad Diallo. So I'm
yeah,
not sure
yeah, I
about
agree.
that. It's just on training. So
Mm.
so yeah. It's literally what it is for me. I want to answer one more comment on Man Lutara. He said Grealish won the treble with City. I think it's more of this of Rodri and Bernardo Silva. These two these two key players won them the treble for me.
You see, Sashif, the thing is, ne, with that argument, Olivier Giroud won the World Cup without scoring a goal and he's playing number 9.
Hmm.
Brother, he didn't do his job. So just because you win a trophy doesn't mean you're the reason why they won the trophy. Just because uh, Darren Fletcher won a Champions League and a Premier League and won so many Premier Leagues, is he better than Pirlo now? No, he's not. It's because of
No.
the team and it's because of the setup and it's because of all the other players around him that he contributed to. And I'm not saying Jack Grealish is bad. What I'm saying is that we need to look at
Yeah.
it in its context. If you drop Jack Grealish in United, we're not going to win a treble because that's the implication he's making. He's saying, okay, Jack Grealish won the treble, so if you put him in a Luton, they're gonna win the treble because it's Jack Grealish. That doesn't make sense. So you need to put players in their proper context, and we're not saying Jack Grealish is
Correct.
bad. What we're just saying
Yeah,
is that
he's not bad. Hmm.
we're saying that he shouldn't have cost 100 million, and the fact that he did cost 100
Correct.
million, it's fine. But his output, goals and assists, GA, it's Anthony stats. It's Anthony stats.
That's
So
similar to it, yeah.
exactly. So man like Lutata, man, I say man like Lutata, man Lutata. Nah, bro, nah.
Yeah, same here.
It's one of those things, guys. You know what I mean? And let's not be worried about it too much. I mean, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. Sometimes the season is great, sometimes it's bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes we look for all sorts of reasons to say, well, okay, this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. But at the end of the day,
Exactly.
in sport, it's so weird that you could just be off your rhythm slightly, and the way you perform goes from a 9 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10. You know what I mean? It's a real life situation. These guys aren't robots as well. So sometimes, you know what? Expecting them to be their best every single game might just not be the reality. You know what I mean? At the same time, some of the players we have, I don't see them as that consistent player every single game, week in, week
Consistent
out.
plays, correct.
And there are some players who we know they always had a tendency to show up in like maybe a third of the games all season and then have okay performances otherwise. You know, maybe it's time we start changing these players because one of the things that I can tell you is that if you look at that Man City squad, the only guy that's been there when since Marcus Rashford had his debut is Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that tells you in all that you need to know about our current squad, bro.
Mm.
You know, if you look at Salah, Salah has been in the Premier League for a shorter period of time than Marcus Rashford at Liverpool, and he's done more.
He's done more, correct.
And then he's leaving at the end of this season. It's the
Hmm.
same with Luke Shaw. Look at Van Dijk. Look at some of the other players in other top clubs where those clubs are in the leagues in their leagues and look at their players. They've changed players more than we
Mm.
have. There's at least 5 players in our starting lineup that has been here more than 5 seasons.
5-6, correct.
You know what I mean? So this is the point where fans need to really ask themselves, are you willing to watch this for another 2 seasons? Are you willing to watch those guys and hope that they don't do what they normally do, which is capitulate in most instances? You know what I mean? And in other instances, did the first season with manager bounce? Is that what we're here for? because that doesn't mean we're a good club. That doesn't mean that we have standards. If we're gonna get a manager in, and every time a manager comes in, we have a bounce season. We finish top
Mm.
four. Then the next season, what's happening? It's all madness, bro. So it's high time that we cut this out of the players. We let these players know, listen, this is not good enough. We don't want this. You know what I mean? Like, it's not so bad to change over the squad. Why are people so afraid for have new players come into the team, to have a new sense of a new look
Exactly.
Manchester United?
Exactly.
Change is, it might be scary, but change is always inevitable. You know what I mean?
100%.
Whether you notice the changes or not, there's always going to be change happening. That's how the world works, because the world is spinning. It's not spinning in the same axis every single day. It's slightly changing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I'm just looking at it from the perspective that we could always have the benefit of the unknown, in terms of if we start actually changing things at Man United that need to be changed, like players in the squad, like the ethos around the squad, like getting proper people in the backroom staff that actually know what they're doing. We have a Dan Ashworth possibly coming in. We already have Omar Barada. These are positive steps. These guys know what they're talking about. They know what to do. And for all those people who are so hell bent on Eric Ten Hag having this veto power and he's going to be fired because of it, I'd like to let everyone know, man.
I
Like,
to be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea about the flipping veto
I
powers and
mean,
all
they're just
that.
exaggerating, bro. The man made a comment about
I have no idea about it, honestly.
most top managers like like I'll say like Pep Guardiola, like Jurgen Klopp, they all have this veto in their contract. It's not really saying that they
Okay.
decide. It's just saying that they are allowed to make a suggestion. Like, like let's just say he wanted Frankie De Jong, right? Now
Correct.
he wants particularly Frankie De Jong. Now, if they
Hmm.
if the other guys in the recruitment, like let's say the DOF, the sporting
Yeah. Yeah.
director, they decide, well,
Yeah.
look, we can't afford to spend 80 million for De Jong, but we have a young Kobe Mainu in the academy who's basically, profile for profile, and
Mm.
maybe we could get you a Jarl Neves for 50. That's gonna do basically the same thing, right? They're in a room discussing this. This is just one of the transfers that they're discussing before the head of the opening of the transfer window. And then they'll come to a decision, well, okay, do you really, yeah, there's something Frankie does that they don't do. So I want that. That's what his veto means. He's basically gonna say, well, listen, I really need to get this guy. And
Mm.
they will decide, well, okay, now if you get him, then maybe we're gonna have to go with other profiles for the different other positions, because then the
Yeah.
domino effect on the costs, right? And that's all the veto is, really. It's not like he's gonna say, well, I want this guy, and the discussion is over, they have to go and buy that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just more likely that he has a say in terms of, oh, listen, they can't just say, well, look, we're just gonna buy this guy because he's a profile, like he cost us 20 million. We're doing that. No, they're
Mm.
gonna have to have a discussion. It's basically a discussion, bro. And people forget that John Murtaugh as well as Joel Glazer were the other two people on that board having those discussions with him. Guys who know nothing about football, guys who have a track record of only purchasing shirt sellers. Let's be real
Mm.
about life, guys.
Yeah.
Eric Ten Hag didn't spend 90 million on Anthony. The club did. Poor negotiations did that. A terrible negotiating team
Yeah.
did that. A shitty director of football did that. The same guys in Barcelona right now. Everyone's thinking, oh, he's gonna sell Mason Greenwood, but Mason Greenwood is not represented by the CAA. I'm gonna have a stream in the middle of the day with Mick. We're gonna talk about some of the representations and the intermediaries, right? Actually,
So,
the
quick one. Who's representing the CIA
the
that you know
representatives,
of?
they represent Varane, Ahmad, and Sancho. Actually,
Oh, I see.
the
Okay.
Okay.
intermediaries that are with John Murta prospectively in
Okay.
Barcelona.
Okay.
I mean, it is what it
I
is,
see.
guys. Everyone wants to, have their narratives come out. At the end of the day,
Mm.
it can either be sensational, it could be a buzzword, it could be whatever, it could be positive, it could be negative. You know what I mean? But at the same time,
Mm.
just as much as it could be left, it could go right. So you kind of have to live on both sides of the fence. You kind of have to at least comment on both sides. Whether you like Ten Hag or not, he has done a good job with what he has and what he has available to
What?
him.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure, we could say he could have done better, and I probably
Yeah, he
think
could
he
have
could
done
have
better.
done
Correct.
better. But at the same time, the reality is what the reality is. I'd like to thank all the guys for joining me. Big up to you, John Morgan, for coming in. Thank you so much,
Big up,
Sachiv.
man.
Don't
Big up,
forget,
man.
guys,
Respect.
go support KennyFANtv. I think he's 27 away from 100 subs. Get this
Hey
guy to
yo, well
100.
done, bro.
Let's get him up.
Okay, thank you so
Let's
much,
get
man.
him
Thank you
there
so much.
and let us get him across the line. You know what I mean? If you have time, just go to his channel. His link is right there on his name at KennyFANtv. The guy's pretty
Sweet.
funny. Check him out. He does some good streams, especially his reactions. And John Morgan doesn't have a channel yet, but I'm pretty sure he's going to come up with one soon. And you could also catch him on
We have
here,
to have his own
usually in the
channel,
mornings. He's
man.
always here bringing his views. And if not, you can go to the Reckless Delegation with KG. He's there every day giving the reckless takes. He's on a match ban today still, shockingly enough. So I don't
Oh,
understand it.
that's
But
fine.
you know what? Tomorrow
Mm.
he's going to be back on the show.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. You'll be there tomorrow. Correct.
bro, I actually thought you served your match ban already till
Bro,
Yeah,
I
Sunday,
I
don't know
thought.
man.
what's
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on. I don't know what's going on. I'm just being like,
Yeah, you were
okay.
saying. Yeah, you were saying something about Hansi Flick, right? That was the
Yeah,
one
what
that.
I said was I never saw him lift the trophy, and I didn't. I never saw him, but I was just confused for some
Mm.
reason. Right, I was telling my friend, for some
Yeah,
reason
fair
in my
enough.
mind, I thought Hansi Flick was at Bayern for 4 months. Honestly, I thought he was there for 4 months, and
He was no, I think
I
he
think I
was
got
sacked
confused.
4 months after he won all those things. That is what happened.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right,
but
right.
anyway,
But at the same time,
anyway,
people say the man wanna like. I just wanted to make this one final statement. And
Sextuple, by
people might not hate it. The six-tuple thing that people is be talking about do exist, bro. You know what I mean? Like, unless you win that within the footballing season, and the footballing season we talking about is a 9 month season, right, guys? There's not a calendar year. A football year is 9 months. Okay,
Correct.
so all these calendar year trophy thing men want to be exaggerating, bro. Keep that for basketball. This is not what we're not doing that here. You know what I mean? And Hansi Flick is a really good coach. But you see, people don't get it, Hansi Flick is kind of like a Ten Hag, disciplinarian, you know,
He
and
has
he
his
kind of even
oh,
worse. You know what I mean?
dictatorship.
In terms
Correct.
of how he is deal with players, it's either you play his way or you get out. And
yeah,
at the end of the day, you gotta always look at it both ways. Eric Ten Hag, there has to be a major reason why he implemented his style of play this season and he didn't do it last season. You know what I mean? People need to look at and read between. If you want to read between the lines, ask the right questions. I would say. You know what I mean? Why did Eric Ten Hag change his style of play this season instead of implemented it last season? Unless you're the owner of the club, I don't think you have an answer for that. If you look at the current signings we made this summer, we have seen and heard certain signings that he wanted to make and couldn't make, and then we've seen the
yeah.
signings that we received. Now, I would say
King Min
Hoyland is a
Jae.
brilliant signing. People might argue that he cost 72 million, but I'm telling man, right now I'm pretty sure there are lots of teams, including Chelsea, that were saying maybe we should have spent that 72 million on that youngster, because as it stands, everyone's looking at him, even Real Madrid. And you know
Correct.
what, guys? Kylian Mbappe, I will keep saying this. Kylian Mbappe is on his way to Madrid. Be on the lookout for Vinicius Jr. coming to United. People might
I
say
would.
I'm crazy, but I don't see a footballing reason that allows him and Mbappe to play at that team. Because Mbappe, as everyone knows, does not want to play at striker. He wants to play off the left. Where does
Left
Vinny
wing.
play?
Correct.
Yeah,
Does he hold bench? Who holds the bench? Who benches who? Does Vinny
That's
bench
true, man.
Mbappe? Does
That is so
Mbappe
true.
bench Vinny? Guys, we have to be more realistic. And plus, if they're going to pay him 200 million, it kind of seems logical that they would sell Vinny for at least 80, to kind of soften the blow. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
Mm-hmm.
what's a better place to send him to than the next biggest club in the world, Manchester United? People might argue the fact, but it's a fact. And if it's one thing, is that the two biggest clubs in the world have done lots of business and transfers, as you can
Correct.
see,
That's true.
Ronaldo, Beckham, Owen. Lots of guys have made these trips. But you know what it is, guys? It is what it is. And I've got to end the stream now because I know these guys have their things to do, and we also have to get to the reckless crew. So, guys, big up to all of you coming in. Big up to you, GB. Big up
Big
to
up,
you,
G.
Manu Tata, and certainly, but not least, big up to you, Stephanie Griffith. I hope you're having a great day. And also, big up to you, the reckless one. Hope you're having a good one. We'll see you all later. Thank you for
Oh,
joining me,
oh, I
John.
know.
Thank you for
Oh,
coming
I
in,
know.
Sachiv.
Oh, I know who is this guy. I know who is this guy, Charles.
Yeah, that's Charles. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
always
Charles.
him, bro. He's probably gonna pop up
That's
tonight
him.
on the stream. Guys,
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
available at 10 p.m. UK time, I'm gonna be live tonight. We're gonna be talking Eric Ten Hag, All Eyes on Me, Machiavelli the Don, just like Tupac. You know what it is. No one can stop talking about our manager because you know what? For some reason, I think they all want to get him at their club because they've seen what he could do. So they want to get him out of Man United and into their team.
Mm.
Guys, big up to all of you. I'll catch you all later. Thank you
Yeah,
for
sure.
joining us. It's been your boy, and it's been Sachiv. It's been
No
John.
problem.
Let's go.
Let's go.